chat. Just take the folder. Yeah, take the one. Yeah. So a quick recap from yesterday. What we have been doing yesterday, we ran through most of the examples on this page. The URL again is Google code and then geolocation. We basically covered. Maybe I should not mirror it. So we were able to install the packages on most of the computers. We have some hiccups, but I think it works on most of your machines. What we left off yesterday was, so again, if you need just a refresher, go ahead, rerun some of the examples wherever you want. And we stopped at outputting the file so that once you get the track, you can take it out of your computer. And yesterday's assignment was we're trying to start working with your own data. And the first task that we have to do is to get a file formatted in this way. But I assume you all have now at least a simple text file with this format. So again, it's date, month, year in separate columns, and then lat long. And if you want to run it with SST, you probably need another column for SST. So that's where we left off. So most of you have mini pads, and that's why that would be the starting off point. You probably have on the Wi-Fi softwares. They have two that comes, you can download directly from the website. This thing is called DAP. It's a simple looking setup, but essentially wherever DIAG files, dig files you get from Argos, you can just decode it through this software. Otherwise it will be just hex code or binary like numbers that you don't understand. So if you ever open up a hex file, a dig file, like this one, you see. This is a typical dig file you get, like these messages. If you have messages for pad tag that transmit through Argos and email you directly, this is what you get from Argos. It's just a bunch of numbers, and without that, you won't be able to decode it. So usually the first step is to get all your, either get this file, download it directly from the Argos website, or if you do email, it will be a bunch of those messages. You can actually dump all those emails into DAP. So you can drag and drop and dump it in there usually. Oops. So assuming, say, you have a whole folder of tag files, they're all ending with a DIAG ending to it. You can just dump it in. Oops, sorry, I got the wrong one. DS, my bad. That's the DS file. Take is the diagnostics. So you can dump those files in there, and just through this interface, you can just export the data, which is kind of the standard operation. You probably wouldn't know that. And once you got that, you just have to tell it where to dump those CSV files. And I'll just dump it right back here for the time being. And just give it a user-friendly name. If not, just keep it the way it is. And at this point, it dumped a bunch of CSV files, and that's what we were mentioning yesterday. If you were to just get the locations or SST on, this is where you get the files. So locations will, right now, because we haven't run the manufacturer process location, so all it has is just the Argo pop-up points that you get. So this file right now is just wherever the tag has popped up and transmit the messages to Argos. That's why you see the type is Argos messages. Then the SST stuff you can find from this file. They have adopted this new format 2-3 years ago, and it's good in a way that every file is self-contained, but they replicate a lot of the information in different files. So you can find SST or location in all those different files usually, and it can get confusing which one you want to use. And they do tell you where certain information comes from. Like this thing is saying that it actually comes from, this SST information actually comes from the other file called likes log. So there's a lot of cross-referencing, and yes, it can be confusing. But essentially, they just want to make it user-friendly, but by doing so, it duplicates a lot of stuff. So this is the starting point. Once you decode it, the next step, you have to try to get it with the manufacturer geolocation. So the way that you do that is through this interface. You can you have to install another thing called gpe2, which you can actually call it by itself. So I have it as a shortcut, but I don't know. I think the new version they put the shortcut directly. They used to be not doing so, so you have to create a shortcut yourself. But if I haven't, I don't really remember because.
I installed yesterday.
No shortcut. Okay, that's screwed up. So the easiest way to call it would be through here then, if you don't have a shortcut with you. So it'll be through tags and then position estimator. That's where you can call it up. I'll do this once and I'll show you where the shortcut stuff. So once you click it, it'll do its own thing. This tag is really short, so it really doesn't do too much. And something really peculiar about the wildlife software, it doesn't know where you deploy the tag, and sometimes it doesn't know where the tag pop up as well. So I don't know how much it will change its calculation here, but you'll be able to see, okay, so once it's finished, you'll see it. Once you see it, it'll be on a map, like here, with kind of the classic things that you see from any wildlife software. You can kick things out or not. I usually don't mess around with things here. It's just more getting a first cut of the positions. And I just mentioned it will be missing sometimes the deploy and pop-up point. You should be able to edit it here. And you can see there's like always blank here, and if you're lucky, you'll get the right information on here. But more often than not, you'll have 0 and 99. So it will just put it in no man's land. And so that's the setup. So once you got that, you have to save it to something. So you have to go back, file, and save and close. So that information will be saved and put in all your CSV files, but you have to do a two-step process. So you save and close first.
Does you save it in the same directory that the?
No, not yet. Right now, it's just saving is somehow in the current memory, and so you can, if you like what you have done, there's two ways to save things for wildlife. You can save the workspace again. So this is the binary format that will have. They will be used for this program only. So so once if you do that, let me do that quickly. You save the workspace. Make sure I know where I'm putting it. Okay. So you save the workspace. It will show up as like a wcdap thing. It's the proprietary stuff. So if you close this guy now and then open back up, they will be having those information. And you can see here it's at 30 likes log and 11 locations. So it remembers what we did just now on the GPU. So if you don't do that, then the GPU stuff will be lost. And there's one other way to save whatever GPU stuff, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore. You have to do the decoding again. So go to File, Export, and Spreadsheet. And you basically rewrite the files, and now it will have, oops, happened so many times. Anyway, it will be rewriting, I say it in the wrong name, but we'll be writing all those information back. me open one column.
What's the difference between the previous one?
Oh, the previous one? Okay, I'll show you quickly. That's locations. So now, like, let's look at this one. So remember just now when I showed you this file, locations, it only had the Argos positions. So now it has those GPE stuff.
Okay.
So now, like, that's kind of what the starting point for some of the geolocation stuff is. Like, you need that lat long here. So these are the stuff. So with that, you can start piecing together your 5 columns, year, month, day, and lat long.
Can you just show how you got it into the Excel format?
Okay, yeah, sure. So again, you'll be going through this interface, go file, then export, and then
Oh, so you just literally do it.
again, yeah, you just do it again. So the same process will be the same for the recover tag. So which I'll do it once here now. But essentially, it's the same process. Now I have a mess up directory, but I won't deal with it now. So assuming that, okay, this is the file. I mean, and if you are copying stuff onto your drive, it will have the same folder now. It will be examples, and then you can pick either 7-gig or white. It will have a WCH file. So this is the one. And that's basically what Wildlife have for recover tag is their own format. Let me just delete these guys quickly. So clean things out. So I think if you double click on it, it will open instrument helper, which you don't really, it doesn't help you out here that much. It's just more to look at the time series. You have to go through DAP again. Close, minimize it now. Now you just drag and drop. Then it will show up again, and it will just tell you what the tag is supposed to be, and you do the same. You can export right away, or you can just run it through the GPE stuff. And it was just go do that was doing what it's doing. Some of the stuff that I cover is mentioned here. On the left, there will be third-party software using KF packages. It will cover some of the things that I just kind of quickly show you. So the same setup. So if you forget, is where you want to look at. And as soon as it's finished running, I'll just show you the other way to start GPE. Okay, so it's still running. So you just pick tags and then GPE, and then you can just select a tag to process, which I'm processing right now. Oh, so this thing is done. So your white chart is really well behaved. So even with this one, it looks really nice actually.
Tim, looks like there's some. It throws away some locations. Would it be best to remove any of that filtering and work with as many positions as possible for the filtering later?
It does reject some. Let me see. It rejects quite. I wouldn't. You probably can use all the positions if you want to, but you probably can benefit from it. But right now, let's just say we didn't do any messing around. Just wherever it's built out, we trust it for the time being. Because I was curious, how can this check the default looks so nice? Usually they don't. So maybe they're actually smarter now. They just hide some of the things, which is fine. So once it finished doing it, you have to really save it. You do save it by going to File, and then Save Changes and Close. So let's wait. Then now you see, again, on your workspace in that, now you have 179 locations from what you did just now. So before you don't have that information. And you can either save that and do export to your CSV files, and that will dump a bunch of CSV. Let me do that quickly. So I do export and CSV, and then I just put it where I want. 1180.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, so that's one recommended way to do it. You do everything through GPE. You decode your files into CSV files, and then run the gpe2 software from tags, and then this shortcut. That's how would be one of the easiest. But there are many ways to get to the same solution, so I'll just show you one other way to confuse you. So like when you have just the CSV files, if someone just sends you these sets of CSV files, there's no way to start that. Because like there's I deal with many people different settings, and people sometimes just like, I don't care, I'll just give you this one file. And but what do you do with that? When that happens, say, all it needs to run the gpe2 is this file called likes.log, so likes location. So let's say to illustrate, I'll just say I delete all these guys, and it'll be clear that way. Yeah, so what if you just only have this like.log file, and now you start gpe2 again, it'll be a standalone thing, and all you need to do again is just drag and drop the like.log file into the program, and it will just run it again. So, so there are two ways to start. If you just have a set of the CSV files, you can start that process this way. If you do have either the DS file from Argos or the recover file WCH, then you can do it through that altogether. But if you just have this Excel file or CSV file, you can do the same, but just in a slightly different way. I'll just let it run through, so you get a sense of what they're trying to do. So this is also like mentioned here. You see, you can either do within that to start GPE, or you start out as a standalone thing. And as I mentioned, like.log is what it needs to do. And at least one good part about this setup of the software is they can put more than one tag in a like.log file. So essentially, you can dump whoever processed the tag through that. They can dump maybe 100 tags into that, and all it does will be output one set of files. There will be one set of different CSV, and in that likes location file, we will have all 100 tags in it. So you'll get really confused, but it's in there. So like this is showing, say, I have maybe 40 tags in there, and each of them has a number of messages that tag collected, and you have to run the check for each of them first. But it will all end up in one file. So essentially, it's easier for someone to handle it. They just read in that one file and cut it out by ID. So that was the idea when they do it. Like, for me, I don't really care. So when you do that, you see the interface will be a little bit different. It won't start the process by itself. You have to select which one, and then it'll start processing. And I don't have example here, but at least the screenshot shows that idea on the website. Okay, so automatic processing finish, and then you will say set out save, and there are two files. So through this process, actually able to save two files. The first one is a GPE format. So what it says is wcg2 is the GP format. Okay, so if I do save it, so what this does, it will allow me to launch GP again without having to rerun the whole thing. So if I just double click on the file I just saved, it will just bring it up and without having to rerun it. So if you drag and drop like log in it, it will just rerun, and you don't want it because you already done it once. So close this guy. Now the endpoint we still want to write it to somewhere. So you go from file and then export results in CSV format. So this was not available when you were doing the dap setup. Like the dap setup will not have these two options by itself. So only when you do a standalone processing, this will be available. Because the other route, it will be writing back to that long set of CSV. This one, since we're only working with one file, it'll just save it back to that one file. So that's why I say it's so confusing. There are so many routes to get the positions, and depending who you talk to, they might like one way or the other, and yeah, it can create lots of confusion. So now, if I say save, you'll by default, it will try to write it back to the original file, which is fine. All it does, it will just add a few extra columns. So, oh, my bad. If I go back to my directory now, you can see I actually just saved this file just now. Oh, I know why it saved another temporary file, but anyway, here, if I open up the like log file now, it will add a column called, let's see. It'll be towards the end. Oh, maybe I saved it to a location that I don't know where I saved it. Let's see. That is missing information. Save. Export results. Oh, yes, my bad. Yeah. This is one of the most confusing parts for me, because when they save, they put it into the parent directory. They never remember where you drag the file in, so it will save to some unknown location usually. So the way that you go back and know where they saved the file, all you need to do is do that again, and it will show you where your working directory is. And in Windows, you can cheat. You just click on it and cut, and you will be able to move your file. So if you cancel now, you'll be able to move that displays file back to where you want to be. So you can just move and replace. Now we have an updated file. So you see how it just add a few columns of what they did for the GPU stuff. So this extra block is the GPU results. So if you're working just off the standalone version to build your input file for the geolocation stuff, you use the like log file. So the difference between the processings is, if you only have the CSV files to work with, you go to like log. If you can start with the Argo messages with the DS file, then you can go through that, and you need to use the locations CSV to do it. So that's the distinction. Are we good so far? Like, everyone's happy? Like, that's not my software, but there are plenty of ways to drive this software. I'll show you one last thing of what Wildlife has. Like, they actually are able to call the common filter software that we built. Essentially, what we've been doing in OWL is a way of wrapping around to call the binary file behind to do it. And like Wildlife were able to just do the same and have the interface, and that's what they were really proud of for the common filter interface that they have. Like, it looks familiar to you guys because we went through the process yesterday. There's just a GUI with the numbers that you can just punch in and give it a first try. And yeah, so if you want to do it quick and easy, you can definitely explore the interface. And this is almost like the OWL. This is like what you did in OWL, but they put it into a Windows GUI.
Is it exactly the same results?
Yes. Yeah, it's just running the same thing. It's just that it's a different wrapper. They just wrap it around and to part of it. And if you are successful to run it over there, you can just try once. I rarely use it, so I probably will not know how to do this right here. Let's just say process. Yes, it seems to be working. Then if you go now back to the location stuff, you will see they'll just update it and add this one in. So the purple line is what I did running a common filter on, and you can see it's doing something. And that's the end of the results. So if you are lazy, you can just do it here, and then you can be almost all done. Let me take off the GP locations, and that would be where the outcome from running a KF track on via the common filter interface in GPE. But you might want to, it will benefit from knowing your exact positions, which I don't actually. I don't know where the shark is and where the shark end up. So if you were to do it, if you were to run it in the common filter interface here, make sure you have your start and end points filled in. Otherwise, yeah, there's no information to work with.
Was that the ragged choose? Was that LPRC?
So if you put the start inputs, it'll probably shift that a bit closer to the
If you add the start and end, does that just reduce the error around the
Yeah, and right now, because I think with the start and end point, at least I don't know why it's
Stop. And something that wildlife computers told us, if you have a setup file for your tag, if you drag and drop your setup file into DAP before drag and dropping the DS file, it makes it slightly more accurate because it knows the settings that you should have previously uploaded.
Yes. Yeah, that definitely. You need your setup file, because the best way to definitely do that is wherever files related to the tag, just dump them all in. They either can read it or cannot read it, and wherever they can read it, they will output it. So that's one way to do it. And
would that have things like clock calibration and stuff like that that would provide?
Not at least we'll have some settings. Like for me, the most important palette, which I hope we'll get to cover later on, is Wi-Fi computers, at least for most of the tech people deploy, were able to collect histograms. So time at depth and time at temperature, those histograms. And those, if you don't have that setup file, they mean nothing, because they don't have the bins. So then you'll, except for archival text. Archival text, you can actually, they rebin it on the get-go. But like those setup information, if you don't supply it and someone just give you a set of files and as the process is almost useless. The vertical stuff is lost if you don't have those bins information. Which, hopefully not many people display their files. Otherwise, it's pointless. Yeah, remember we have two routes to do that. The first route is through DAP, and if you do it through DAP, you won't have these options. You won't have. Oopsie. I don't want Google. Go. You won't have like these two options. So your menu would be a lot shorter. Like you only have this set of menu items when you use the like log file. Yeah. So that's two starting points. Okay, so we'll backtrack again. No problem. It's confusing. I don't know why. I think I've written a better instructions on my website than their own menu, because like they built it and they forgot to write the help. Let me see. Okay, so I'll start from the beginning here. So I'll just move these guys here. So when you have, say, pretend that this is either your Argo message or your recovered text. So you just start that for that purpose. And you just drag and drop in it. So once you finish that, you can do this option to start it. And when you start that, it will start running. So I can, maybe I'll just do the other way. Let's see. No. So you start this light level global position estimator. You do that, it will start running. And then once finished, it will be able to see the map. And remember, if you do have the lat long position, you should enter it after this stage. So you should be able to go to settings, add the lat long, and you see they always miss out some information. So yeah, you have to enter it. You can reprocess it. I enter it, and then you just iterate for all messages. It will just rerun. Yeah. So once we run, you have this track, and now at this stage you should be able to save it. But you can see this menu options a lot less, which is fine. It's just different way to starting it. It will give you different options. So you can now save and close. Once you save and close, you can do here, and you can, let's see, you can decode the data, export to decode the data. And once you do that, it will end up as a bunch of spreadsheets like here. You'll end up with all these spreadsheets. So that's route number 1. Route number 2, you start GPE. Let me close this. I'll start another one. And then you go to your like log file, and you just drag it into GPE, and it will just run it again. So it all starts from DAP. So you have to go back to DAP. So if you drag and drop your Argos messages or the recovered tag file, it will have this option for you to save the data. So it will be export, decode the data. And that's how you get the bunch of CSV.
I can't see the text file that you've got.
Oh, let's see. So if you go to reggae, and that should be a ds.txt. You got this one?
Yeah, I've got that one.
Okay, yeah, just drag and drop into that.
Okay.
Yeah, so that, and once you do that, you'll be able to export it.
Into CSV.
Yeah, so now you do have this like log file, and you can start up that to run it. And you just drag and drop. Make sure you have the lat long if you want to it behave better. And it will ask you to save. At this point, you can save it. And you do one extra step of exporting the data again, because now you want to export those processed lat long into your like log.csv. So You go to File. You see the file menu now has like expanded options, and you can just do export in CSV. And that will write over your original file if you save it into the right directory. If not, like what I did just now, stupidly, it will save it to some unknown location, and you have to just find the file at that point. So export. Make sure you select the right location. It happens all the time. Okay, so once you save it, it will be in the like.csv, and if you open that up, it will have this extra set of columns called geo with their GPE estimates. And this is where the starting point can build your file to run KF track. Okay, I'll go back to here and see whether it did better with the other tag. Common to the database, this guy. Close you. Cells complete. Locations. Display options. Voila. Oh, this one ended up on land, but yes, at least it's closer than what you want. At least you have a first cut and you'll be able to see it like that. So feel free to try the interface yourself. You should be more comfortable with things here anyway, so you can either do it quickly here or just go back into OWL and do your magic over there. Okay, now so you have the starting point, and once you have the starting point, you can do your hard labor work in Excel and format it. And once you finish formatting, it will look like something like this. So remember, the first and last line is your start and end point. So you want to make sure that they are in the right place. That's your starting point and your ending point. So I just approximated it using Mosel-Bay, so I have no idea what it is. So this is the start point. I put it in Mosel-Bay, and then end point is what Enrico has it in the file. Maybe it's completely wrong, but whatever. So at least that you have a file to start working with. So that's the starting point. So what you would if you were to do it from the start, it would be like that. Otherwise, you'll be having a file like that, and you work with it. I actually cheated. I didn't need to use Excel because I bring it into the database, and database spills out the stuff I need from the database. So I don't have to do the formatting myself. That's the idea.